Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you. The crisp air of the early morning was still as the government hovercraft descended noiselessly onto the diplomatic quarters of the United Earth Alliance's main compound. Inside, Jason Morrow, a seasoned diplomat, stood waiting as the craft's doors slid open with a soft hiss. His role typically involved delicate negotiations and fostering peace, but today it entailed receiving an alien dignitary, or so he had been told. As the figure stepped out of the hovercraft, Jason straightened up, expecting to greet a high-ranking official. Instead, he saw a slender figure, her skin shimmering with a subtle luminescence that was characteristic of the Avarians, a humanoid species from a distant star system. Her eyes, large and expressive, surveyed her new surroundings cautiously. "Mr. Morrow, I am Mira," she said, her voice a melodic whisper that somehow carried perfectly in the quiet morning. "I have been assigned to you as per the directive from my government." Jason, taken aback by the unexpected announcement, managed a polite nod. "Welcome, Mira. But I don't understand. Assigned in what capacity?" Myra's gaze fell. "As a servant, effectively. Is my punishment to serve a human as a slave?" The word slave struck a harsh chord in Jason's ethos. "I see," he replied carefully, masking his discomfort. "Well, let's not stand out here. Please come inside. We'll discuss everything over breakfast." As they walked toward his residence, Jason tried to ease the palpable tension. "I wasn't informed of the full details of your situation. But I want you to know, Mira, here you won't be treated as a slave. We'll figure this out together." Mira nodded, her face an unreadable mask. Inside, they sat at a small breakfast nook, light filtering in through the large glass panes. "Coffee. It's a popular Earth beverage," Jason offered as he poured himself a cup. "Thank you, I would like to try," Mira replied, accepting the strange dark liquid. She took a tentative sip and smiled slightly. "It's quite invigorating." Jason chuckled. "It is. Helps with the early mornings. Now, tell me, why were you sent here?" "It's unusual for punishment to involve working with another species." Mira set her cup down, her fingers tracing the rim lightly. "In our culture, breaking certain laws results in being sent away to learn humility and servitude. I made a discovery that challenged some of our old scientific doctrines." "And they sent you away for being too curious?" Jason interrupted, his tone a mix of disbelief and anger. "Precisely," Mira sighed. "My curiosity was deemed too disruptive." "Well, that won't do here, Mira. We value curiosity and learning," Jason said firmly. "While I can't change your official status unilaterally, here on my team, you'll be a research assistant. You have skills and knowledge we value." Myra's eyes lit up, a stark contrast to her earlier resignation. "I would be honored to contribute, Mr. Morrow. Please call me Jason. And I suppose I should show you where you'll be working." He stood, gesturing for her to follow. "We've been researching interstellar agriculture techniques. Your expertise could be invaluable." As they toured the facility, Myra's enthusiasm grew. Her questions were insightful, bridging the gap between her world and Jason's work seamlessly. By the end of the tour, not only had she impressed Jason with her knowledge, but she had also ignited a spark of hope in him, that this strange situation might just work out for the best. Jason concluded, "Looks like we're going to make a great team, Mira." Mira smiled, a genuine one this time. "It seems we are, Jason." "Thank you." Their partnership, born out of an unusual and uncomfortable beginning, promised to blend the best of two worlds, challenging each other to grow beyond the confines of their circumstances. Mira found the Earth's research facility to be a labyrinth of endless corridors and bustling labs, far removed from the structured silence of her own planet's institutions. The chaos was disorienting, but oddly invigorating. Beside her, Jason guided her through the maze, introducing her to his team of researchers with an infectious enthusiasm. "This is Dr. Elena Martinez, our lead botanist," Jason said, presenting a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a welcoming smile. "And this is Mark Simmons, our chief engineer." Elena extended her hand, which Mira took hesitantly. "Pleased to meet you, Mira. Jason has told us a lot about your work. We're eager to learn from you." Mark nodded, his gaze curious. "Welcome aboard. Heard you shook things up back home. Looking forward to seeing what ideas you've got for us." Myra's smile was tentative. "Thank you. I hope to meet your expectations." As the introductions continued, Jason watched Mira adapt to each new interaction, her initial reticence giving way to a cautious engagement. After the round of introductions, they finally settled in Jason's office for a debrief. "Everyone seems nice," Mira remarked, looking out of the office window at the busy compound below. "They are, and they're excited about what you bring to the table," Jason reassured her. "How are you feeling about all this?" "It's overwhelming," Mira confessed. "On my planet, roles are clear and deviations aren't welcomed. Here, everything is so dynamic." "That's one way to put it," Jason chuckled. "Here, we thrive on collaboration. Different perspectives often lead to breakthroughs. Think you could get used to that?" Mira considered this, turning back to face him. "I think so. I am trained to observe and learn quickly." "That's the spirit." Jason's voice was encouraging. "Speaking of learning, let's start with something simple. How about helping us with a hydroponics project? We're trying to increase the yield without enlarging the cultivation area." "I like that," Mira replied, her interest piqued. "Hydroponics is quite advanced on avarice, though our methods are probably different." "Perfect. Then you can work with Mark on that. He's been trying to crack it for months now." Over the next few weeks, Mira worked closely with Mark, who proved to be a patient and inventive mentor. They spent long hours in the hydroponics lab, testing new nutrient solutions and adjusting light wavelengths. The work was challenging but fulfilling, and Mira found herself more at ease, her confidence bolstered by each small success. One evening, as they were reviewing data from their latest experiment, Mark looked over at Mira with a grin. I think you're really getting the hang of this. This last batch of lettuce is nearly twice as big as the last." Mira beamed, proud of their progress. "It's a far cry from where we started, isn't it? Your guidance has been invaluable, Mark." "Hey, it's been a team effort. You brought fresh ideas, we just implemented them," Mark replied, clapping her on the shoulder lightly. As their project continued to develop, Myra's integration into the team solidified. She was no longer the alien who had been shunned and punished for her curiosity. Here, she was a valued scientist, a collaborator, and a friend. This sense of belonging was new to her, a stark departure from her prescribed role in her rigid society. One afternoon, Jason and Mira walked through one of the quieter sections of the garden, discussing plans for a new experimental crop. "You've adapted remarkably well, Mira. How does it feel contributing so directly to our projects?" Jason asked, genuinely interested in her perspective. "It feels liberating," Mira confessed. "Back home, I was constrained by traditions and hierarchies. Here, I can express and implement my ideas freely. It's more than I ever hoped for." Jason smiled, glad to see her thriving. "I'm glad to hear that. And there's more to come. We're just getting started." Indeed, as they returned to the bustling hub of the labs, it was clear Mira had carved out a new life for herself, one marked not by punishment, but by discovery and acceptance. Several months had passed since Myra's arrival, and the change in her demeanor was palpable. Her confidence in her role as a research assistant had blossomed, bolstered by the success of the hydroponics project. Now she was about to embark on an ambitious new project, this time leading the initiative with Jason's full support. Jason and Mira stood together in the newly designated lab space, observing the installation of advanced equipment. "This is a big step, Mira. You ready to take the lead on this?" Jason asked, his tone a mixture of pride and curiosity. Mira nodded, her eyes reflecting a fierce determination. "Yes, I'm ready. I've been preparing for this. It feels good to lead something that could change how we grow food on space colonies." "I knew you were the right person for this job," Jason affirmed. "Your proposal was impressive. Combining Avarian hydroponics techniques with our technology could really push the envelope." As they discussed the project's timeline, Dr. Theo Benson, the head of the engineering department, joined them. "Jason, Mira, how's the setup going?" he inquired, looking around at the high-tech paraphernalia. "We're just about done, Theo. Mira was just outlining the first set of experiments," Jason replied, gesturing toward Mira. Theo, a tall man with a penchant for detail, turned to Mira, his expression earnest. "I heard your approach is revolutionary. Can you walk me through your plan?" Mira enthusiastically explained her strategy, using a digital tablet to display graphs and schematics. "By integrating controlled-release nutrient systems and LED spectral tuning, we can significantly increase yield and reduce resource waste. The first phase will focus on optimizing environmental variables." Theo nodded, clearly impressed. "That sounds fantastic. Let me know if you need any custom tools or modifications." My team can help streamline the setup. Thank you, Theo. I appreciate the support. Mira responded, her earlier anxiety replaced by the thrill of collaboration. Over the next few weeks, Mira and her team, including Jason and Theo, worked tirelessly. The lab buzzed with activity as they tested, modified, and retested the systems. During this time, Jason noticed not only Myra's technical skills, but also her ability to inspire and manage her team. One late evening, as they reviewed the day's results, Jason leaned back in his chair, watching Mira as she animatedly discussed a data anomaly with one of the junior researchers. Once she finished, she walked over to Jason. Today was a good day. The new adjustments increased efficiency by 7%. It's small, but it's progress, she said, a slight smile playing on her lips. It's more than just progress, Mira. It's a testament to your hard work and vision, Jason corrected gently, his admiration evident. How do you feel? I feel included, she admitted, her voice softening. Back home, I was always on the outside looking in. Here, I'm part of something. It's more than I could have hoped for. Jason's expression softened. You're more than part of this, Mira. You're a leader here, and you've earned every bit of respect and responsibility. Their conversation was interrupted by Theo, who came bounding over with a new set of printouts. Mira, Jason, take a look at this. I think we've got a breakthrough with the nutrient timing protocols. The three of them pored over the data, their heads together, discussing potential impacts and next steps. It was moments like this, intense, hopeful, and driven by a shared passion for discovery, that solidified their bonds not just as colleagues but as friends. As the night drew on and the lab emptied, Jason and Mira remained, planning for the future. We're making history here, Jason said, a note of wonder in his voice. Mira looked around the lab, a soft smile on her face. We are, aren't we? And to think, this all started with me being sent here as a punishment. Jason laughed, the sound echoing slightly in the quiet space. Well, if this is punishment, I can't imagine what rewards look like. Mira joined in his laughter, the sound mingling with his in the stillness of the lab, a symphony of joy and belonging that seemed to fill the expansive room. Together, they turned back to their work, the screens casting a soft glow on their determined faces. The project was ambitious, the hours long, but the journey was theirs, and it was just beginning. Jason and Myra's project was nearing its critical phase, and the long hours in the lab had brought them closer than ever. On a cool evening, as they walked through the botanical gardens adjacent to the research facility, their conversation drifted from professional to personal. Jason, do you ever miss your life before this? Before diplomacy and all these interstellar projects? Mira asked, genuinely curious about his past. Jason chuckled softly, hands in pockets as he admired the luminescent flowers that mirrored the glow of Myra's skin. Sometimes, I suppose. But then I wouldn't have met you or been a part of something so groundbreaking. What about you, Mira? Do you think of home? Mira paused beside a fountain, watching the water dance in the moonlight. I do, but my thoughts are less about the place and more about the constraints I felt there. Here, with you and the team, I feel free. That's a good thing, right? Jason asked, stepping closer, his tone gentle. It is, Mira affirmed, meeting his gaze. I never understood many human expressions until now. The freedom here is liberating, but also a bit overwhelming. Jason smiled, his eyes reflecting the soft light. It can be. Freedom comes with its own challenges, but it's better than being caged by old traditions. Their walk led them to a secluded bench, and they sat down, the ambience of the gardens enveloping them. Mira turned slightly towards Jason, her expression thoughtful. Jason, can I ask you something personal? She ventured hesitantly. Of course, he responded, turning to face her fully. How do humans navigate feelings that might be more than friendship? Her voice was barely a whisper, betraying her nervousness. Jason's heart skipped a beat. He had felt the tension between them growing, a mix of admiration and something deeper. It's not always easy, he admitted. It's about being honest with ourselves and each other. It's also about taking risks. Mira nodded, absorbing his words. I think I am experiencing such feelings, for you. The confession hung in the air, charged with vulnerability. Jason reached out, taking her hand. Mira, Before he could finish, rain began to fall, light at first, then quickly turning into a downpour. They laughed as they stood, running for cover under a large oak tree. Standing close under the tree, Jason brushed a wet strand of hair from Myra's face. I'm feeling the same, he said, his voice low. I wasn't sure if you. I do, Mira interrupted, her eyes bright despite the rain. Encouraged, Jason cupped her face gently and leaned in. Their first kiss was soft, tentative, as if testing the reality of the moment. But as they drew back, their smiles confirmed what they felt. This is new for me, Jason. We don't usually express emotions this openly, Mira confessed as the rain continued to pour around them. It's new for me, too, in a way. But I want to explore this with you, Mira. No expectations, just us learning together, Jason replied, his sincerity clear. They stood under the tree for a long while, talking softly, exploring their thoughts and feelings. When the rain stopped, they walked back to the lab, their hands intertwined, a silent acknowledgement of the shift in their relationship. Back at the facility, they were greeted by Theo, who was waiting with news. The data from today's trials are in. It's looking promising, but we need to review it together. Jason and Mira shared a look, their newfound connection adding a layer of complicity to their partnership. We'll be right there, Theo. Thanks, Jason said, squeezing Mira's hand before they parted to prepare for the meeting. As they delved into the data with Theo, their easy camaraderie blended seamlessly with their professional focus, demonstrating that their personal relationship could enhance, rather than complicate, their collaborative efforts. The evening marked a significant turn not only in their project but in their personal lives, a confluence of human emotions and alien curiosity, creating a unique bond forged under Earth's rainy sky. The success of their joint project had brought Jason and Mira into the spotlight, not just within the scientific community, but also in the eyes of the broader public and the media. The attention, while mostly positive, also sparked debates about the ethics of Mira's initial assignment and the nature of their relationship. One brisk morning, as they prepared for a televised interview, Jason briefed Mira on what to expect. The media are supportive, but be prepared for some tough questions about how you were assigned to me and how it's evolved, Jason warned, his expression serious. I understand, Mira replied, adjusting her blouse nervously. It's just still so strange to be questioned about personal matters in such a public way. As they sat in the studio, the host, a well-regarded journalist named Dan Fields, welcomed them warmly. Jason, Mira, your project has captured the imagination of many. But Mira, your journey here started under unusual circumstances. Can you tell us how you feel about that now? Mira took a deep breath before answering. Initially, it was difficult. I felt isolated and unsure of my place here. But working with Jason and the team, I found a purpose and a respect I never expected. My arrival here as a slave was a punishment, but it has led to opportunities for growth and contribution. Dan nodded, his gaze shifting to Jason. And Jason, how do you reconcile your personal feelings with the professional responsibilities you have toward Mira? Jason leaned forward, his hands clasped. It's a balance, Dan. From the start, I've been clear about treating Mira with the respect and dignity she deserves. Our personal relationship grew out of mutual respect and shared goals. It doesn't detract from our work. It enhances it. The interview continued, touching on the scientific aspects of their project, but always circling back to the implications of their unique situation. After the interview, back at the lab, the mood was tense. Theo approached them, concern etched on his face. You two handle that well, but there's chatter among the staff and on the net. People are questioning the ethics of your arrangement. Jason frowned, rubbing the back of his neck. We knew this would come up eventually. Mira, are you okay? Mira sighed, looking between Jason and Theo. I am, but it's hard not to worry about the opinions of others, especially when they don't understand all the details. Maybe it's time we address this more openly, Theo suggested. You can hold a forum here at the facility. Open up about your work, your relationship, and how you've navigated the cultural differences. It might help to clarify things for everyone. Jason and Mira considered the idea. After a moment, Jason responded, It's worth a try. Transparency could help dispel some of the misunderstandings. The following week, they organized an open forum at the research center. Colleagues, media, and members of the public were invited. Jason opened the session by discussing the objectives of their project and the scientific breakthroughs they had achieved. Mira then took the stage, her voice steady but her hands slightly trembling. When I came here, I was alone and uncertain. The freedom and respect I have experienced have been transformative. Jason and I started as colleagues, and yes, our relationship has grown, but it's been built on respect and shared passion for our work. Questions from the audience were pointed but fair. Mira answered honestly, her confidence growing as she spoke of her dedication to their shared goals and her appreciation for the opportunities she had been given. The forum concluded on a positive note, with a round of applause for their candidness and commitment to ethical practices. As the crowd dispersed, Jason turned to Mira, a smile breaking over his face. "You were amazing, Mira. No matter what anyone says, know that you have changed not only our project but also the way we think about collaboration and culture." Mira smiled back, her earlier nervousness replaced by a sense of accomplishment. "Thank you, Jason, for everything." Their bond, tested by public scrutiny, had held strong, proving that even in the face of cultural clashes, transparency and honesty could lead to understanding and acceptance. After the forum, the atmosphere around Jason and Mira had shifted significantly. Their colleagues at the research facility began to view them not just as a curiosity, but as pioneers of a new kind of interstellar cooperation. With their project achieving consistent breakthroughs, their focus could finally return more to their work and less on defending their personal lives. It was late one evening in the lab, with only the hum of computers and the soft glow of bioluminescent plants illuminating the space, that Jason decided to broach a subject that had been on his mind since the forum. "Mira, have you ever thought about what's next for us after this project?" Jason asked, leaning against the lab bench, watching her as she examined a series of data on the screen. Mira paused, turning to face him. "I think about it sometimes. Our work here has become a significant part of my life. But I also think about us beyond just the project." Jason nodded, pushing off from the bench to move closer. "I've been thinking about that too. About us. We've been through a lot together, and He paused, searching for the right words. "I want to make sure you know how important you are to me, not just as a partner in this project, but in every way." Myra's expression softened, her usual poised demeanor giving way to a more vulnerable look. "Jason, I feel the same. I never expected to find this kind of connection, especially not here, not with everything that started so complicatedly." Encouraged by her response, Jason took a tentative step forward. "Mira, would you consider staying here with me, even after the project? Not because you have to, but because you want to?" Her reply came softly, but with certainty. "I would, Jason. There's nothing I want more." Relief and joy mingled in Jason's expression. He reached out, tentatively taking her hands in his. "And there's something else I've been wanting to do." "What's that?" Mira asked, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "This," Jason said, and gently pulled her into a kiss. It was a kiss of promise, of all the nights spent working side by side, of shared frustrations and triumphs, and of a future they could build together. As they broke apart, the intimacy of the moment enveloped them, more profound than the myriad of stars shining outside the lab's panoramic windows. While Mira breathed, her voice a whisper. "I've read about human expressions of affection, but experiencing it is something entirely different." Jason laughed softly, his eyes alight with happiness. "There's a lot more to human affection than just that, and I hope to show you every part of it if you'll let me." "I'd like that," Mira replied, her voice steady despite the emotions she felt swirling inside her. As the night deepened, they continued their work, but the lab felt different now, charged with a new energy. Their discussions were punctuated with laughter and soft touches, a celebration of their mutual feelings. The next day, they presented their latest findings to the team, their easy camaraderie and subtle glances not going unnoticed. Theo, ever the perceptive member of their group, caught Jason after the meeting. "You two seem different today, more connected," Theo remarked, a knowing look in his eye. Jason grinned, unable to contain his happiness. "We are. It's been an incredible journey, Theo. And it's only getting better." "That's good to hear," Theo responded, clapping Jason on the back. "You both deserve all the happiness you can get." As Jason went back to his desk, he couldn't help but feel that the best parts of his life were just beginning. With Mira by his side, both in the lab and beyond, the possibilities seemed as endless as the universe itself. Their love, born amidst a backdrop of stars and science, promised a future filled with discovery, both scientific and personal. The project was entering its final stages, and the results were surpassing all expectations. Mira and Jason, now not just partners in research but also in life, were preparing for the upcoming International Space Farming Conference where they would present their collaborative work. It was an exciting time, but an unexpected message from Myra's home planet brought a new tension. In Jason's office, Mira handed him the communication tablet with a grave look. "It's from the Avarian Council," she said. "They've reviewed my case again. They say my Rehabilitation is complete, and I'm free to return home. Jason took the tablet, reading through the message, his brow furrowing. What do you want to do, Mira? Mira sighed, sitting down heavily on the couch. I don't know, Jason. This is all I wanted at one point, to go back. But now everything has changed. I have you, our work. Jason sat beside her, taking her hand. Mira, I love you, and I want you to choose what's best for you. If you decide to stay, we'll find a way to make it work. And if you go back, cutting him off, Mira shook her head. I can't imagine going back now. My life, my heart, it's here with you. But leaving my planet and my past behind, it's a big step. Before they could further discuss, Dr. Theo Benson knocked and entered Jason's office. Sorry to interrupt, but I overheard a bit. Mira, you've made a huge impact here, not just on our project, but on our community. We'd hate to lose you. Mira smiled at Theo, grateful. Thank you, Theo. That means a lot to me. Theo nodded, his expression serious. Why don't we hold a meeting with the team? Maybe getting everyone's input could help clarify your decision. Gathering with their colleagues later that day, Mira explained her situation. The support was unanimous. Everyone urged her to stay, highlighting her integral role in the project and the community. Mark Simmons, the engineer Mira had worked closely with, spoke up. Mira, you brought not only expertise but a new perspective that's invaluable. It's more than just the work, it's the way you've connected with all of us. Encouraged by their words, Mira felt a newfound resolve. Thank you, everyone. Your support means everything to me. I've decided to stay. My work here, my relationship with Jason, it's my future now. Cheers filled the room, and Jason hugged Mira, relief and joy evident on his face. The next day, Mira drafted her response to the Varian Council, officially declining their invitation to return and explaining her decision to build her life on Earth. Jason stood by her side as she sent it, his presence a comforting constant. Are you sure about this? Jason asked gently after the message was sent. Mira nodded, more certain than she had ever been. Yes, I'm ready to start this new chapter of my life here with you. With Mira's decision made, they focused on their upcoming presentation at the conference. It was a triumphant moment when they stood together on the stage, sharing their findings and the innovative techniques they had developed. Their work was met with acclaim, further validating Mira's decision to stay. The couple returned home, their bond strengthened by the challenges they had overcome and the future they had chosen together. That evening, as they celebrated quietly in their favorite little cafe, Jason took Mira's hand across the table. Here's to new beginnings, Mira, and to all the adventures to come. Mira raised her glass, her eyes sparkling with happiness. To new beginnings, and to a life filled with discovery and love. Their glasses clinked, the sound a sweet symbol of their commitment to each other and their shared future on Earth. Under the stars that had once seemed so far away, but now felt like part of their own vast, beautiful horizon. In the quiet aftermath of their successful presentation, Jason and Mira found themselves back at the research facility, planning their next steps and reflecting on the journey they had traveled together. Can you believe it, Mira? Just a few months ago, we were testing basic prototypes, and now we've presented at an international conference, Jason said, flipping through their presentation slides with a nostalgic smile. Mira leaned over his shoulder, watching the slides change. It feels surreal, Jason. But it's not just the project that's evolved, is it? We've changed too, grown together in ways I never anticipated. Jason turned his chair to face her, his eyes serious. That's true. You know, when you first arrived, I never expected any of this. It was supposed to be a professional arrangement, nothing more. Mira chuckled softly, sitting down beside him. Neither did I. But, Jason, what we have now, I wouldn't trade it for anything. The phrase, alien girl was given to human man as a slave as punishment but ended up marrying him, sounds like a line from a strange fairy tale. It does, Jason agreed, laughing. And yet, here we are, living our own strange fairy tale. Their laughter subsided into a comfortable silence as they both looked at the data on the screen. What's our next step, do you think? Mira asked, her tone shifting to more serious matters. Jason's expression mirrored her own contemplative mood. I've been thinking about that. There's so much potential to expand our research, maybe even start a dedicated institute for interspecies agricultural technologies. Myra's eyes lit up at the idea. An institute? That would be incredible, Jason. It could serve as a hub for Earth and interstellar collaborations. We could lead it together. I was hoping you'd say that, Jason said with a grin. I can't imagine doing this without you, Mira. Shall we draft a proposal? Together, they spent the afternoon outlining their vision for the Institute. They discussed potential research projects, funding sources, and collaborations with universities and interplanetary organizations. It was work, but it was also a shared dream unfolding in real time. Later that evening, as the sunset casting a golden glow over the city, Jason and Mira walked through the park near the facility. It's a beautiful evening, Mira remarked, taking a deep breath of the fresh air. It is, Jason agreed. Perfect for new beginnings. He stopped walking, turning to face her. Mira, there's something I've been wanting to ask you, now that we're starting this new chapter together. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a ring. Mira gasped, her hands coming up to cover her mouth. Jason, is that? Will you marry me, Mira? Truly marry me, not just as part of some strange tale, but because we choose each other, here and now, for the future we want to build together? Jason asked, his voice steady despite the nerves he felt. Tears welled up in Myra's eyes as she nodded vigorously. Yes, Jason, yes, I will marry you. There's no one else I'd rather be with, no other life I want to live. Jason slipped the ring onto her finger, and they embraced, the setting sun casting long shadows around them. It was a moment of joy, promise, and the deepest connection. The celebration that followed was small, but filled with laughter and love. Their friends from the facility joined him, toasting to their future and the new institute that would soon become a reality. As the night drew to a close, Jason and Mira stood together, looking up at the stars. To think, all of this started because a distant council decided to send you to Earth as a punishment, Jason mused. And it ended with us choosing each other, choosing this life, Mira added, her voice filled with wonder. Yes, Jason said, squeezing her hand. Here's to us to the future, and to a world where love and science create miracles. They stood together, two figures against the vast, starry sky, ready to embark on their greatest adventure yet. It was a new dawn, not just for them, but for all who would come to learn and grow at the institute they would build together.